Hey everybody, I am Justin Bogard from the Real Estate Note Investing Be the Bank podcast. It's Wednesday, April 13th, 2022. And today we're going to be going over a little bit of what the interest rates are doing right now, kind of a mortgage industry update as we usually do. And I got a few case studies. Actually, I got one kind of case study and kind of some examples of high balance, low equity, and high equity, high balance loans. So you can see kind of the differences between those. Stay tuned. All right, everybody, welcome back. Again, this is Justin Bogart from Be the Bank broadcast here. And if you're on Facebook, if you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever social media channel this is airing on right now, please use the comment section in there to kind of chime in and ask any questions that you want. It doesn't have to be about what we're talking about today. It can be just about anything about real estate notes, and happy to answer them. I may answer them live during the main part of our presentation, or I'll save them for the end to our little Q&A, or kind of our after party here. So if you want to say hi or something, you're more than welcome to. Not sure who's out there in the world of the internet right now, but drop a line, say hi to me. Usually I have my buddy Richard Thornton on, but I think he's having trouble logging into the program, so might just be going solo here. So anyways, I'll continue without further ado. This broadcast would not be possible without some sponsorship. So our company, Bright Path Notes, we've got the deal flow to make your cash flow. If you're looking for note deals, whether full loans or partials, hypothecations, things like that, that's kind of what we offer, what we do. So you can reach out to me at justin@brightpathnotes.com. Our local real estate investing club is called CIREA, Central Indiana Real Estate Investor Association. And you can see the number up on your screen along with the executive director at cirea.club. Excuse me. Is how you can get a hold of them. And it's a local, centralized Indiana community of real estate investors. There's landlords, there's wholesalers, there's note investors like me, there's short-term people, lots of vendors that we have, and lots of great mentors in this group as well, as far as getting into real estate. And specifically, if you are in notes and you have Indiana notes especially, it's good to know these people because they'll be the boots on your ground for you. So we also have a note investing training program called Constant Cash Flow, and you can reach out to us at info@brightpathnotes.com to find out more information. This is kind of like the groundworks of getting into the note investing community, learning how to be a note investor, kind of the 101s of it, the explanation of the terms, kind of how do we underwrite deals, what kind of deals are there out there, and what do they look like. And it's about 25-ish videos, and they're all between 4 and 10 minutes long. And we also throw in a couple of case studies as well for you guys, so you can kind of see some of the deals that we do. And our last sponsorship is New View Trust Company. They're out of, I always forget what city they're in. They're in Florida. And so you can reach out to them. They have 407-708-1853 for any retirement account. They do solo 401ks, IRAs. They do CES, so I'm thinking of all the names, the Coverdale Educational Savings Accounts. They do the health savings accounts as well. They can set you up with all that stuff. They're a sponsor for us. We highly recommend them. So if you email newaccounts@newviewira.com and you mention this broadcast here, they're going to waive your setup fee. Kind of nice. All right. So without further ado, let's get into the CIREA part of this slide. If you're not a part of CIREA, you don't have to worry about this slide too much. Anyways, if you're part of CIREA, or if you want to follow CIREA in general, they have a Facebook tag handle called @IndianaCIREA. They also have a LinkedIn handle, which is @CIREA-Central Indiana Real Estate Investors, as you can see on the screen. And then the Instagram tag is CIREA Real Estate Investing there. And if you have your smartphone, pull out your smartphone, take out your camera, hover over this little QR code there. It should pop up a little URL. And when you pop up that URL, it gives you like a link to go somewhere. You just tap on it, and then you can sign in to get your PHP credits. Again, I always forget what the PHP credits do. They have something to do with giving you some sort of status or maybe a potential license to have those credits, right? So let's get into Be the Bank podcast. This is the broadcast. We also have a podcast as well. And the podcast is really a debate kind of discussion on just centered anything in and around real estate investing, real estate note investing specifically. So last Wednesday, we had Zarina Harris. We recorded that episode and aired it last Wednesday. That was a good episode number 7. She is the note spy. So rightfully so, was episode 007. So go check that out. You can download that on any podcast directory, the Stitcher, YouTube, Apple Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. It's on all of them. We actually record the video of it as well. So if you go to our YouTube channel, the Bright Path Notes YouTube channel, you can see the video stream of that as well. All right, so a good question popped up. So John, thanks for asking the question. So is the training on performing or non-performing or both? It's actually both non-performing and performing, and also on seller financing as well. So we touch base on that as well. So thanks for your question. If you have any questions at all, please bring them up. Use the comment section on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, whatever media platform that you're on right now. If you're watching the replay, we will see the comments on this, and you can feel free to comment on YouTube as well, and we will answer your questions. Okay, so we are now moving to what I call the mortgage industry update here. And so over the past, the couple of years, we have been advertising. We have been talking about all the forbearances that have been going on and kind of what the data is showing us. So we're looking at Black Knight Financial data as our main source to look over these loans. Look over the data of these loans and just find out what's going on. So as you can see, the delinquency rate has gone up a little bit. The foreclosure starts have gone down a little bit, and the prepayment activity has gone down as well. These numbers aren't too surprising. Traditionally in the January, February timeframe and December timeframe, things kind of slow down. They do different stuff. So that it doesn't surprise me that we don't see a lot of foreclosure starts. March will probably be a horse of a different color, as they say, and we'll probably see a lot more activity in March, especially going into April and May. We should see a lot more activity as far as foreclosure starts are concerned. It's still saying these numbers are small on my screen, so I have to kind of lean in a little bit. It says about this month's 25,000 starts. We're about 23% below a pre-pandemic level. So we're talking about before February of 2020. Again, if you have any comments, any questions about any of this stuff, please chime in. If I don't answer them live during the main part of this presentation, I will save it for the after party, and we can get into a more good discussion then. This chart is really cool. I like it. It's the national delinquency rate, and kind of see where we were and see where we're going to. So I'm going to look at my other screen here because it's bigger. So since 2001, this data was recorded all the way to the height of the real estate crash in 09, early 09, late 09 timeframe. They're going all the way to February of this year. And so you can see it spiked up back in July timeframe of 2020 and has slowly just teetered its way down to very, very low averages. So then the fact that it's ticked up a little bit really doesn't mean anything. It's just a blip in the radar. So our national delinquency rate is extremely low, which is a good thing. So this slide was kind of interesting. Again, this is all from Black Knight Financial data. And it shows the monthly P&I payment to purchase the average priced home. This is solely based on a conforming loan, which is, a 20% down payment prevailing with a 30-year interest rate. So we're just keeping those terms in mind. This is what it takes as far as to buy the average priced home, which the median price home, I don't recall what it is off the top of my head. I should have looked it up, but I didn't. So back in 2006, right before the real estate crash, it was about $1,350. And as of March, actually, of this year, it looks like it's almost $1,700 of payment. So when you see this graph kind of spike upward, that means the affordability factor is starting to weigh in pretty heavily for borrowers. So that means it's getting more difficult for them to pay. So you are going to see a lot more opportunities with seller financing. I don't know if any of you are doing fix and flips right now, or if you're taking back properties, REO, or if you're selling on seller financing, or if you're noticing that seller financing is starting to become an option that's going to be more popular for borrowers. You should consider that option because there's a lot of good things that can happen because of it, not only with taxes and not only with long-term passive cash flow, things like that. So you should really consider that. If you have any questions, use that comment section on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever format you're on. I encourage you to ask some questions. And yes, I am wearing a ball cap today. I traditionally don't wear a ball cap. I don't know why. I just felt like wearing a ball cap. So if you like the Cubs, give me a shout out, because I like the Cubs and the Red Sox. Probably the Red Sox more than the Cubs, but I got to have American League and a National League team. Okay, so this graph is from the other report that Black Knight Financial Data has, which is the origination report. So the other report was the Mortgage Monitor update, and this is the Origination Monitor update. And this graph was kind of interesting. It kind of caught me by surprise because I guess I wasn't really paying attention to the interest rates, what's been happening the last, 7 to 8 months. And so if you look in the middle of this graph, it shows about the October 2021 timeframe, where the interest rates, we'll just concentrate on what is it on my screen? Looks like the black line is the 30-year conforming loan. So that's the 20% down payment. That's the higher credit worthy borrower. And so that looks like it was around the maybe almost close to 3% time frame back in September, October, and it's jumped all the way up over 4.8%, close to 5. Maybe it's a touch over 5. If anybody knows what today's rate is, go ahead and chime that in the comment box. It'd be nice to date that as well. So if anybody's going to bankrate.com or whatever, they can find the latest 30-year fixed rate interest rate is. I'd be interested to know. I think it's around 5%, maybe a touch over. Please chime in if you can. All right, so the main part of the conversation I want to have today is I see this a lot where people ask the question, how do you value a note? And the question is, okay, we got someone that chimed in about the interest rate. Thank you, Dennis. And let me bring up your comment here so everyone can see it. Dennis says it's 5.25 for today's, I assume that's a 30-year interest rate you're looking at. Dennis, since you're so kind to comment on this, can you also comment what the 15-year fixed is as well? And I'll bring that up on the slide as well. So talking about managing risk. So in the opening statement there, I talked about having a low balance, high equity loan versus a low equity, high balance loan and what the differences are. So that's the main thing that I look at when I'm looking at risk. When I look into a deal, I don't really say that I have a yield in mind. I don't really say I have a percentage of property value in mind. It's more of the risk of this whole situation in general. And sometimes my yield is pretty strong, meaning it's a double-digit return. And sometimes my yield is a single-digit return because it's a very low-risk situation. So I have deals come across my desk every day, different types of deal, different type of risk. So I have the opportunity and the privilege, if you will, to kind of pick and choose which loans that I kind of want to go after and bid on. Now, I don't win all the bids, obviously, but I do win bids and I do have more opportunities than some people. So it looks like, what did you say, Dennis? Okay, Dennis just saw a headline there, so he didn't get the 15-year. I was just curious what the 15-year is. So anyways, this is how we value risk. So we got different values of the note. There's interest rate, there's down payment, there's borrower's credit worthiness, there's their pay history, there's other factors to it as well. But I kind of want to concentrate on the risk and looking at the high balance, low equity loans versus the high equity, low balance loans. If I can get my screen to click over, that would be great. Okay. So what I got here on the screen is we've got a property that's valued at $65,000. And today's unpaid balance, if we're going to kind of compare two loans at the same time with kind of the same information. And we've got $30,000 as unpaid balance. We've got 6% rate, and we got a $400 principal and interest payment. If anybody doesn't understand that, go ahead and chime in the comment box and I'll bring that up. It looks like my buddy Richard is trying to get on, so I may need to forward him a message real quick. Richard, you're killing me, man. You should have got on a lot earlier. He's probably going to give me some excuse, I bet, when he gets on here. Richard. Okay, let's see if Richard gets that. It's on there. He's on California time, so he's probably just getting out of bed or something right now. Anyways, so the situation on the left-hand side of the screen is going to be the high equity, low balance loan at this rate. So now let's look at the reverse of that, we're going to look at the high balance, low equity situation. So this is going to be more like a loan at its infancy, like a loan that has just been created. So it's a $65,000 valued house. The UPB is unpaid principal balance is $55,000, the 6% rate, and a $400 payment. So that's what we're looking at here. So which one do you like better? I think probably everyone's going to agree that we probably like the one on the left better because the risk comes into play, right? This is a lot less riskier deal for you buying this because you're not going to pay over $30,000 for it, right? You're going to pay less than $30,000 for it. On the one on the right-hand side, you're going to ask for a little bit of a discount to kind of mitigate that risk. There's other factors, like I said, with the looking at the down payment, the credit, the seasoning, and stuff like that. But I just want to concentrate on these things today and just show you the differences when I look at loans. So we've got a situation here on the left again where the risk is low in our opinion. It's a $65,000 value and the unpaid balance of $30,000. So that means the risk is low because it has long seasoning is what I think I'm trying to say. The other loan is short seasoning, and we would purchase this loan on the left for around $26,000 because, quite frankly, we may not make a monster yield on it, but it's such low risk that we're going to have a low chance it's going to be turned over because a profitable loan is a loan that keeps paying month after month, time after time, just like clockwork. The note on the right is going to be a little bit different for me to underwrite it. I'm going to look at it and say, this doesn't have very much seasoning. The down payment doesn't look like it's very much. We'll assume it's maybe a $5,000 down payment. Maybe it's $7,000. It's a higher risk situation, right? So a higher risk, you expect a little bit higher reward. So we're going to offer something around maybe $35,000 for this. Again, we don't have all the factors into this. We're just solely looking at the equity versus the loan balance in here and trying to gauge exactly how we would get into this deal. Now, there could be other factors about the one on the left that would make me want to price it lower. There could be factors on the right that maybe want to price a little bit higher on that as well. So, all right, looks like Richard is not able to get in. So let me try it one more time, see what we got here. All right, Richard, try 244363. Richard, 244363. See if you can get that to work. All right. So does anybody have any questions about that, the risks? Go ahead and chime in the comment section if you want. So Richard and I come across a lot of deals like I talk about every day. And one deal in particular, I kind of focused on this as kind of the case study for today. All right, we got a good question that popped up. So Michael asked a good question. I'm going to back up a little bit. So is there a ratio of UPB to value? In that scenario, like I said, Michael, it's kind of dependent on other factors that are outside of this. If we're just looking at just that one factor right now that I wanted to explain for today, that's what we're doing. So if it was a very low equity situation, you want to ask for a bigger discount. Now, that discount could be 60%. It could be 80%. It could be 40%. It will determine with other factors. The one that had high equity, I don't have to take on as much risk, so I'm willing to pay the seller higher to UPB. So that loan is going to be more valuable in the open market than it is the other loan. And other factors could weigh in as well. So that's a good question. All right, Richard, you're going to have to send me another request here. All right, Richard, try this one. 762959. 762959. Richard's killing our broadcast today, guys. We need to heckle him and give him some heck here. So I have a performing loan on a vacant lot. That's interesting, right? We typically are looking at single-family homes, 1 to 4 units, residential, first lien. We don't see a lot of second liens. We don't see a lot of vacant land. But when we do see it, we're more than willing to take a look at it. But we're going to look at it through a different lens. So it's really tough to value vacant land. And all right, Richard just hopped on. Richard, let me pull you on just a second. It's really tough to value vacant land Richard, I'm getting some feedback on your side. Hey, Richard, just hopped on. Richard, let me call you in just a second. I'm getting feedback on your side. Hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I can hear myself in the background like from 30 seconds ago, bro. Hear me? All right. Richard, you got some problems here. I can hear myself in the background like 30 seconds ago, bro. We're going to have to mute you, Richard. All right. So what's going on with my screen here? Okay. Back to normal here. Richard, when you get your sound figured out, go ahead and lower your speaker volume or put on some headphones because it's going to be too much of an echo here. All right. So there was a loan that was presented to us that was for around $34,000. Like there was a borrower that saw this piece of land from the seller and they bought it and they agreed to a price of like $34,000. I got a comment here. Let me field this real quick. My voice just got to Callie. That's a nice one, Dennis. Right on. So the loan balance is going to be $20,000. So there's obviously about a $15,000 down payment in there, which is nice. And let's see here. Advance to the next number here. $20,000. All right, Richard, you're going to have to mute your microphone. It's not working, dude. All right. Sorry, guys. There we go. All right. So there's a 12% rate on this note. There is a P&I. Richard, I don't know what you're doing, but you got to stop messing with the controls, please. Okay, so there's a P&I payment of $331. There's a 12% interest rate, and the loan balance is $20,000. So we have $15,000 loan, $15,000 down payment. So let us get to the next one. Man, this PowerPoint is not liking it today, guys. All right, so the assessed value was $13,000 on this. And so I went to the assessor because when I'm valuing land, it's really hard to value land. This is in Colorado. It's kind of before you get to the Rockies, like in between there. So it looks like it's a good place to do some, to have some like camping sites or some hunting stuff or things like that. So that's what I looked at. So I wouldn't say that I would want to buy this piece of land and that I could resell it for $34,000. I'm kind of skittish about it. The market for people to buy land is not going to be as a big buyer's pool as there is for buying a single family home. Okay. So that's why I look at the assessed value and I said, you know what? I feel a lot more comfortable being probably closer to 50% of what the perceived value is of what the seller said. So I'm kind of right there of where I feel like I would want to be to like I can turn it over. I did like the fact that the borrower put down $14,000 as a down payment. Obviously, I like the interest rate. The interest rate was nice and high. The payment's pretty good too for a $20,000 loan. I want to say that's probably, I don't know, 10 to 15 years, right around that time frame. So I offered them $10K. And I put a contingency on it. So I said, I'll offer $10K, but what I want to do is I want to do it on a performance bonus basis. So I don't want to give you the $13K because, they didn't really get the borrower's financial information. Hey, Richard, they didn't really get, any sort of credit on them. So I don't really know the borrower. And this loan kind of just got created. And I think it had 1 or 2 payments on it. So this is kind of a higher risk situation. But I said, look, I will give you $10,000. And after 12 months, if the borrower performs perfectly, if they make their payment on time, they don't go past the grace period, and we don't have any issues with them, so we're collecting, 12 $331 payments, well, then I'll go ahead and release out of escrow, another $3,000 for you so you can get 13 for it. So that's kind of how you can reduce your risk in a deal as well. So you kind of give them what you're comfortable with now, and you see what the performance is of the borrower. And then after a while, you can be like, okay, I'll release those funds, or no, the borrower didn't do what we were thinking they were due. And so then we are in the deal a lot less, and we feel more comfortable if we had to move forward with that deal and just only paid 10 for it. Does that make sense? Hey, Richard.
Hi.
I can hear you. Thanks for fixing whatever problem you had there.
Oh, sorry. Apologies. It's a result of, as you know, my computer sort of blew up last week and I had to have everything rebuilt. And now I'm realizing that all my logins and everything like that are all blown out.
It's funny you mentioned that because I switched from, I don't know if anybody prefers Google Chrome or Firefox. I switched over to Firefox a couple weeks ago. And so I've been having similar problems to where some of my login information or some of my cameras and microphones and stuff aren't recognized by Firefox yet. So I have to go back into the settings and make everything released. And so it's kind of annoying. But you had much more bigger problems to deal with, Richard. You said your laptop like blew up on you. You had to get a replacement. Your replacement didn't work that good, and then you got your original one back, right?
Yeah, it was a bit of a menagerie for like a week when you're trying to get work done. So not the easiest, and my apologies.
All right. All right, Richard. So were you able to catch the kind of
Yes.
case study and the scenario I was pulling
Mhm.
in here today? So did
Mhm.
you have any comments about any of that stuff?
Well, I didn't. I mean, I caught parts of it,
Okay.
not enough to really. I'm performing loan in a vacant lot. Obviously, you're going to have a lot higher risk, so
Yeah.
you have to um, address that, and it looks like you have done that very well.
Okay. My friend John here asked a good question. I figure since we're on this case study, let's go ahead and talk about it. So, how'd you come up with the 13,000 original offer? It's mainly because when Richard and I are looking at a vacant land lot, it's like we've said before, it's so tough to establish a value for it. Obviously, this person that sold the property found somebody that thought this property is worth 34,000 and they're willing to pay for it. Okay, great, good for them. I don't think I could turn around and resell it for $34,000 based on the information that I know, but I am not a land expert. So for me, I feel like I still like the cash flow and I feel like I want to be in the deal, but I want to be in a lot more lower risk situation. And so that's why my offer was based on the assessed value, the assessor's value of that parcel. And that's why I came up with a 13K offer. But I only wanted to give 10 now and then 3 as a bonus after 12 months. Is
Yeah,
that
with land, you've really got to be careful because, like in our situation, if we're buying, excuse me, out of state, uh, there's quite possible that there's not a lot of houses or anything around that. Well, you could get stuck. I mean, you could have a property that's worth $20,000, but you may not have any exit because
yeah?
it may sit there for the next 5 years and be worth $20,000. There's a couple guys out here in California right now who's selling desert property in notes on desert property in Southern California. And they're going to get their ears boxed here pretty soon, I hope, because people are going to realize that what they're buying is the equivalent of Florida swampland that's going to go nowhere. Looks good on paper, but there is no exit.
So Dennis made a nice comment, and I'm bringing that up because I want to talk about it. This is sometimes in this business, you end up getting into deals that just have a really great return. I always tell people high risk, high profits, meaning this deal to us is very risky. So we expect to make a high return on it because of the risk that we feel like we're taking on. If the person doesn't want to sell it to us, then they don't have to sell it to us. Could we have paid more for it? Yeah, we could have, but we felt like it was too risky for us because we don't know this part of the country very well and we are not comfortable with land. So we're willing to take a flyer on it, and the flyer would be for that price. So yeah, the yield probably is pretty strong, and it's probably pretty ridiculous in the double digits. But then again, this is what we would offer because that's what we're comfortable with. It could
So
be flipped the other way, though, right, Richard? Because it could be what perceived as a very low risk deal, and be like, yeah, we'll pay close to unpaid balance for it because it seems like a home run type of deal.
right. So the best way to start in land deals, I think personally,
Mm-hmm.
is deals that you can drive to easily.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I know of a couple guys in the Ohio area who are buying a lot of land, and they drove by one piece of property that I'm sorry, they didn't drive by it. They looked at it; it looked good. And when they had somebody drive by it that was sort of in their local area, they found out it was landlocked which is really not legal to do, and there was no access to it. So, if you're looking at something that's 4 states away, it's difficult to do that. So if you can go look at it yourself, or have somebody that can set eyes on it for you, that you really trust, that is knowledgeable, then okay. But otherwise, be really careful.
Yeah. So this, Richard, I don't know if you caught what I said towards the beginning of when I talked about this deal. This piece of land is in Colorado, and it's really close to the mountains.
Mhm.
And from Google Maps perspective, which is a great tool to see kind of what this land looked like at the time the pictures were taken, it looked like it had a few desert pieces to it, if you will. It looked like you could see some sand on it. It looked like you can see some trees, some very large rocks or boulders. And it also looked like it had nice little lanes to park a camper on it. So if the borrower saw these opportunities that someone else didn't see, it could be a rentable piece of land to where they might be getting 2 or 3 different campers on there that could be renting it from them for, 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks a day. Just to be on that piece of land. So that could be a good cash flow for them. And that could be the reason why they paid, or they were willing to buy it for $34,000 for this piece of land. That I don't see it being valued more than 15, but like I said, I'm not a land expert. It's just Richard and I look at it and go, yeah, we want to be in the low risk category on this one.
Yeah.
So that was a fun one. So we get deals like this all the time. I thought it was fun. I haven't brought up a vacant land deal in a while. So if anybody has any questions or comments, please put them into YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever I'm streaming live on today, Richard. I'm streaming on live on several different platforms, Richard. So I feel
you're on Facebook, because that's how I finally got in. So
yeah, I know. I started seeing all your comments, and I was thinking like, okay, how can I get this code to you quickly? And I was like, oh, I'll just tell you over the air. No one's going to understand what that code's for. So
yeah, exactly. You have to know how to get in and blah, blah, blah.
All good. All good. So my opening part of the presentation today was kind of looking at the mortgage industry update, Richard. I'm just going to hold on this slide for a second, because I think this is the last one for this part of the presentation. And so I talked about the mortgage interest rate about 7 or 8 months ago was right around the 3% range. And then Dennis found today that it's 5.25%.
Right.
Do you consider that a large jump? And by the way, Richard has a very big background in commercial lending, so he's very familiar with rates and how the Fed works.
Yeah, that's a huge jump, and I think we're going to see more. The pressure is being put on the Fed, even as they announced today, to jack rates even more. So if you have anything to get refinanced, do it now. I'm sorry you didn't do it 60 days, 90 days ago, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't go 100 or 200 basis points higher than what we are right now.
So 100 or 200 basis points, every 100 basis points is 1%?
Right.
Okay, just for the math. For those of you, I think I thought I was right, but I just wanted to make sure, because I kind of wanted to know too.
Right. So also, just so people know, in the lingo, if somebody says, well, that's 20 bips, that's a bip is a slang term, Wall Street term, but nevertheless, it's also used in real estate when you're trading larger stuff, for basis points. And as Justin just said, there's 100 basis points in 1 percentage point.
So I remember my first mortgage, Richard, and I believe the rate was 6.25%.
Wow.
And I think that mortgage I got in, I want to say, is 2004, 2005. So that sounds about right. I think 2006 is when it peaked at, when it started to change differently, right? That's when the mortgages started to, did they get higher than 6 or 7% after 2006?
After which year?
After 2006. I'm thinking 2006 was the apex of right when they were starting.
Yeah, I don't think they got much higher than that. I was very fortunate in that I actually refinanced at that same time with a low floater. Low floating rates, LIBOR rates were 1.25 then. And I was at 50 basis points, a half a point over. So, and they stayed down for a long time. So I was like at 2.5% for years, and was able to pay off my mortgage because I kept my mortgage payment high. I were paying 6 or 7%. And I just paid it down a lot quicker.
So we're going to have a little contest on here right now. We've got already Dennis chimed in because he's great at mentioning stuff. So his was 16% in the late 80s. So I didn't have a mortgage in the late 80s. Like I said, my first mortgage was around early 2000.
Justin was a baby in the 80s.
Richard, your internet's getting pretty garbled. Can you want to say that again?
Justin was a baby in the late 80s.
I think he said I was a baby then. I don't know.
I'm not sure you wanted to say yeah.
I was born in 78. Come on.
Oh, okay.
All right. So this Facebook user says their first mortgage was, by the way, if you want your name and your picture to come up on Facebook, I don't know why they do this. It's annoying. In the main thread of the invite on Facebook, it says something about at the bottom about give Facebook permission to use your name and your picture when it comes up here if you want to. Otherwise, I honestly don't know who you are. I hope you're a friend of mine and I recognize your name. My first mortgage in 1988, 10% after paying 5 discount points.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Dennis,
those are the ones that you want to refi quickly.
Yeah. I don't know how high they're going to go. Obviously, we can speculate on how high they would go. I can't imagine them getting higher than 6% in the near future. But then again, what do I know?
Yeah, well, we've still got global pressures. I mean, we have to admit or have to acknowledge that during the 80s or even when like the early 80s when they were at 20%, you had more domestic markets. You didn't have globalized markets like we do now. And you had a lot of downward pressure, even though supply chains in China are tightening again and things like that. And that's going to drive prices, I think, even more. You still got a whole lot of other dynamics going on. And I'm with you. I just don't see it, Justin.
Okay. I want to see more comments out there than just Dennis and our Facebook user on their interest rate, if they had one in the 80s or 70s or even 90s, to see what they were. It's just kind of fun just to see what everyone's interest rate is compared to what's the best one that we saw. Does anybody recognize? I think I want to say it was sub 2% for a 15-year fixed recently within the last year. I don't know if I got to 1.98. I thought I remember somebody saying something about 1.88 or 1.98 for a 15-year. I think the 30-year got just below 3%. Richard, is that right? What you recall?
Right. So on the other hand, on the other side of that, let's take this. Do we have just a minute to do this, Justin?
We do, but I got one more comment that came in, so I want to field this real quick.
Go ahead.
It says I had 11.25% land contract. The original borrowers was 18%. Oh wow! So Michael, was this a wrap to where you were paying the owner of the house 11.25% land contract, and then you resold it at 18%? Or am I not reading that right? You can elaborate in a minute if you want to. Okay, Richard, go ahead.
So on the other side of that, Justin, as you know, in our buying retail mortgages, we see a lot of mortgages that were made at 0%.
Yeah, we have.
We do. And so I had a very nice texting chat with a fellow this morning, a potential client. And I pointed out to him that over the life of his mortgage, which was 20 years, and at a 3% inflation rate, which you can support historically, that basically he gave his borrower, by doing that, and he thought he was doing him a favor, which he was. He just didn't realize how much of a favor he was actually giving that person, due to the loss of inflation, $37,000. So I could discount his mortgage $37,000 and he would just be breaking even. And he was aghast. He just said, I had no idea. Thanks for the math. And because he was going to continue to make some more zero rate mortgages. And that's the other side of that. So think about that when you, if you want to buy a zero rate mortgage out there and somebody says, well, why should I take a discount? Just do the math like I just explained to you. And it helps you in your negotiations to buy notes. Okay,
so my friend Drew made a comment here. So he said, sorry, I'm no help, was wearing diapers in the 80s. I probably was too in the early 80s still. I don't know when I stopped wearing a diaper. I have 2 young girls. You'd think I would remember when we stopped wearing diapers, but I don't. Drew, that was a great comment. Thanks. Michael said there was a loan for 18%. Their loan, I'm sorry, their loan was 18%. Okay, got it. I got it. Okay. Thank you, Michael. All right, so we have 3 people. Richard, do you remember what yours was in the 80s, your mortgage, if you had a mortgage then?
I think my highest mortgage was about 8 or 9%.
Okay. I'll have to follow up with my parents and see if they recall what theirs was. This could be a good poll to put into our Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think?
But believe it or not, Justin, I can go back and look at it. I've got my mortgage data on every house and everything I ever owned. So
now that doesn't surprise me, nerd. All right.
Yeah.
Let's move forward here. So that brings us to send us your deals. So we'd be happy to help you with a deal. We'd be happy to buy the deal from you. We'd be happy to participate in the deal with you. So we buy all first liens. Hold out your smartphone, hover over this QR code, and you'll get to our form page that you can just save on your favorite web browser, whether it be Google Chrome, Firefox, Safari, what have you. And then we'll do land contracts. We'll do contract for deeds, which is kind of the same thing. Note mortgages, note deeds of trust, lease options, and this can be vacant land as well. But we really want to make sure it's first lien, and we would prefer residential, but we'll kind of work with you on anything. So John asked if I bought the loan. We're in the process. We have not finalized the deal yet, but this was my offer to them, and I put what I felt was our best foot forward, and we are waiting for a response. So I hope we get it, but if we don't, hey, we did the best we could. So send us your deals. All right. So we just want to make sure you guys know the next time we get together is going to be May 11th, 6 to 8 p.m. is Wednesday, May 11th. I'll just be past May the 4th be with you, which is May the 4th. I always love that day.
And I'll be on time.
And you will be on time, Richard. Yeah. I couldn't believe you didn't get on time. You're usually very punctual.
Well, truth be known, I was on a Note School webinar.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
You're supposed to be on our webinar, man. What are you doing?
I know.
So, if you guys stick around for a little bit, we're going to have kind of more of a Q&A and just kind of have a more casual conversations about anything you guys want to bring up, or Richard and I'll just start talking about some things, kind of decompress from what we learned from today's presentation. So if you hang in there for just a minute, we will get you over to our after party. Richard, I need you to stay on, okay?
Stay on.
All right, man. See you in a few seconds.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my buddy Dennis is clinking some beers because I think it's beer 30 where he's at, or beer o'clock, or quarter till beer, or quarter after beer, whatever you want to say.
Right.
Maybe that's what we should do during our after party, Richard, is we should have some adult beverages ready to drink, and then we can have our after party and our audience can join in on this.
That's right. So John said, how did they react to the 3K deferred? I don't know what you refer. Is it? I don't know.
So what John's referring to, Richard, is that deal where we offered $10K upfront cash, and then we said the performance bonus is going to be based on the borrower. Mm-hmm. So when I present things like this that are kind of unique, I put it in a way that kind of says, hey, look, if everything is the way you say it is, then you're going to get your money. It just might take you 12 months to get the full amount that I'm going to offer you.
Right.
So as of right now, they said they would think about it, and they haven't really gotten feedback as of today. At least I checked my email a while ago and I hadn't seen any information. Mm-hmm. So my gut instinct is if they really want to sell it, this is their opportunity to do it. And we can do that pretty quickly. If they don't, what probably will happen, in my opinion, at least what I think is going to happen is that they'll think about it and they may pass on it today, but maybe 120 days down the road, they'll come back and be like, is that offer still good? And be like, yeah, but it's 12,000 now.
Right. So just so people know, I mean, because you and I are obviously seeing a lot of this stuff. If somebody says,
Hold on, Richard. Richard, your internet's garbled. Usually if we wait about 15 seconds, Richard's internet, the hamster back there kind of starts working again.
pay the
So
bill.
once I see your video back normal, which I think it is now, okay, go ahead and continue.
Okay. When people are talking to people about buying notes, you can sort of get a feel for them. If they say right up front, I don't need the money, and they really, after talking with them, you can see they really don't. In other words, it's just another cash flow item. They're probably not going to go for much of a discount. But if they need the money for something, in other words, I talked to a guy just the other day that though it's discretionary, he wants to move to Florida, then they're much more willing to take a discount.
They are motivated, right? The real estate term is motivated seller. So they're a motivated note sellers.
It's difficult if somebody is just somebody has 4 or 5 notes. This is just another piece of their long-term income. They're not living off of it, and you throw a $30,000 discount at it, it's not going to happen. 9 times out of 10. Yeah,
Sometimes it's tough for them to swallow that for the exact reasons Richard said. So I've been surprised, Richard. I've had where I used to say it takes me 4 or 5 phone calls of different conversations about different things to get them to understand why the discount is so much, or get to the point where I give them the price. But I've had it, Richard, to where it's been like 1 or 2 phone calls pretty quickly. And I'm just like, wow, you accepted that discount, but I don't know their motivation when they don't tell me.
Right.
So this particular person had extreme motivation to just get out from underneath it and move forward.
Right. So as you know, I usually have 3, 4, or 5 conversations with somebody before I actually quote them. And somewhere along the second or third conversation, I basically just, whether I ask or not, I explain why something is discounted. I said, look, market rate for this is 8 or 9%. You're at 5%. Do you understand how a discount works? Blah, blah, blah. That's way before I quote them a price, but at least I've set the seed and the idea as to why a discount would be necessary.
So if you guys don't know already, Richard and I work together on basically buying loans together. The power of 2 is better than the power of 1, because we have, we can split the money, and we can split the capacity of running the business together. And so mainly I'll look at the deal and I'll kind of help Richard figure out like where I think the weak points are, so he can go to the person and talk to them and explain to them exactly what he said. So those are kind of both of our strengths there, and we kind of complement each other that way. So that's why Richard and I have all these deals in front of us that we can work together, and we can make pretty good progress with them. So
I'm the one with the big mouth. So
he doesn't shut up. I mean,
he doesn't shut up. That's right.
Even on Facebook, when he was chiming in, not on here, he just couldn't shut up.
That's right.
Give me the code. Give me the code.
Give me the code, dude.
What's the code to get in?
All right.
All right. Does anybody have any more questions about real estate notes or any deals that they have that they want to discuss? We're more than happy to stay on a little bit longer and go over some stuff with you. Like I said, this was the kind of the unique one that I saw since the last time we spoke. Every month, Richard knows this, but this is for the audience. I try to bring something new that hasn't been talked about before, just so you guys can see when deals come across our desk, kind of what we do and what we look for, what we like, what we don't like, and hopefully you get some education out of it and you learn something new. I know Dennis liked the fact that we put the performance thing in there. Sometimes you just got to figure out, what am I willing to pay today? Okay, that person doesn't like it. Okay, if they don't like it, how do I get them more money? Well, I was just thinking, well, I'll pay you more money if I see 12 more months of seasoning on it, because right now I had 1 month of seasoning. So, Richard, wouldn't you feel more comfortable seeing 13 months of seasoning of consistent, solid payments versus just 1 month?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So it was, for me, it was just like, well, that's the beauty of the deal right there. That was the art of it. It was like, I'll give you 10 today, because if this deal goes sideways and we have to take back this piece of land, Richard and I are really comfortable spending 10K on this than we are 13 or 15K buying it now without really knowing what's going on because the borrower really wasn't underwritten. So that's kind of what you have to think about is like, how can I get into this deal, but also put this little carrot over here that says, hey, if you think this guy is great, this gal is paying you, that's awesome. We're all for it. And we'll give you that money, except we're not going to give it to you today. We got to see it. We got to see it to believe it. Trust, but verify.
So Justin, that's a good point. That you kind of just glanced on, which is something we might want to do. We might want to come up with a couple of case studies where we can't quite make the numbers work.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we do a structured finance deal, but what I am saying is that maybe we come up with a couple of different creative ways, AKA structuring seconds and things like that, to make these deals work that wouldn't seem like they were going to work.
Yeah. So we can do that. We can definitely do that for next time.
I mean, I don't want to get way down in the weeds or anything really complex because we'll lose everybody. But that could be it could be very instructional for people, I think.
Barbara chimed in and has a comment here. So let's go over this and answer Barbara's question. It says, how do you know what percentage of discount you can get from mortgage company? So maybe we ought to back up a little bit, Richard, and maybe kind of talk about this from a different level to get to this, to answer this question. Because I think I know what she's saying, but I might have got it confused. Mm-hmm. So we are buying the notes that we're buying or that we're mainly buying, Barbara, are called seller finance notes, which means the person that owned the property, they couldn't sell it through the MLS, just pretending here. And they have someone that wants to buy it from them that they're not bankable. So the person selling the property also carries back the financing for them. And that note right there, that's the one we're trying to buy. Mm-hmm. And so we're not necessarily buying from mortgage company. Richard and I have bought from mortgage companies before, but we think the best deals are with the seller finance paper, and that's the one that we're going after. So to answer your question, Barbara, hopefully that gave a little bit of clarity, is how do I know what percentage of discount you get from the mortgage? Sometimes there's no math, there's no engineering checklist to give you the exact percentage of what to pay on a note. Richard and I look at the risk. So my whole point of today's conversation was to hopefully get across that we look at the risk of the deal itself. So I thought the vacant land was a really cool way to explain that. Yeah, the yield on it may have been a monster, and that's great and all, but until we actually get paid, it doesn't really mean anything. We're trying to protect the fact that Richard and I are trying to buy a lot of loans, but we also want to make sure that if we have a problem, we're not going to have to stay up late at night going, oh my God, Richard, why did we pay that much for it? We want to make sure that if it goes sideways, that we have no reason to believe that we can't not only get our money back, but we can also make a little bit of money too.
So Justin, talk a little bit about, if you will, yield versus buying on the dollar, cents on the dollar, meaning, 91 cents, 70 cents. Talk about that a little bit.
So those terms, and Barbara, I'm going to still answer your question a little bit further, but we'll sidestep here for a second because that's a good point, Richard. So
yeah, I'm sort of getting at answering her question.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So cents on the dollar in this business can mean a couple different things. What it means to Richard and I is what we call investment to value ratio. So if, for example, that piece of land, let's say perceivably we all agree and we had an appraisal that said that piece of land is worth $34,000. If Richard and I paid $10,000 for that piece of land, $10,000 for the $34,000 piece of land, then our cents on the dollar would be whatever 10,000 divided by 34,000 is. That percentage number would be our cents on the dollar of value. So we'd be at a very low value on that. So some people take it off of the loan.
Note. It's a $20,000 note. We might pay, if we paid $10,000 for it, that would be 50 cents on the dollar.
Of the loan value. So there's two different values we're talking about. There is the property value, and then there is the loan value.
Right.
And so you look at the LTV and the ITV as two separate numbers. Whatever metrics you are comfortable with is what you go off of. So traditionally, we say the discount is off of unpaid balance, Barbara. And so to get down to the weeds of your question is there's a lot of factors about a note that give it its value. There's the interest rate of it. There's the paper it's written on, whether it's a land contract or note mortgage. There is the seasoning of the borrower's pay history. If they have no seasoning, then we're going to look at the credit of the borrower. We're going to see if the borrower had a down payment, like do they have skin in the game? So all these things, there's like 6, 7, 8, 9 factors that all weigh in, and not all of them are great and not all of them are poor. They're all somewhere floating in the middle and kind of above average and average. And Richard and I say, you know what, overall, this looks like a pretty good deal. And we feel like if we put this much money into it, we have a great chance of getting a return, or we need to go lower because we feel like we might have to turn this one over. Or we feel like, man, this, like that high equity, low balance loan, we wouldn't discount that very much. We would pay $26,000 for that $30,000 balance because, quite honestly, it's worth $65,000 and there's only $30,000 left on it. If we had to take that back, there is a 100% possibility we're going to get our money back and actually make a little bit too.
Right. So one of the things we're always fighting too, in terms of discount, is factors that are important to us, but are not important to the seller. Okay. What does that mean? The seller says to us, I've known this guy for 10 years. He was my project manager. I know he's a trustworthy guy. I didn't need to take a down payment. And I only charged him 1% because he's a good guy and he's worked for me for years. Great. He's sure that he's going to get paid in his mind, and there aren't going to be any problems. Unfortunately, to us as buyers, those are all meaningless. And so that's why we have to come back and say, well, we have to buy at an 8, 9, 10% yield or whatever that is. And that affects the amount of discount.
Yeah, we all hear the stories about how great and wonderful the house is or how great and wonderful the borrower is until we actually do our due diligence. And then we can discover some things. And we're like, okay, the data doesn't lie. We see when the payments come in. We see what the property looks like. So
yeah, I always have to laugh. People talk to you and they go, oh yeah, great loan, la, da, da, da. And then we get down in the weeds and they say, well, one of the reasons I'm selling this is because Billy Bob hasn't been making his payments
my gosh,
the last 3 months. And
there are people out there. It's so funny because Richard has these great conversations on the phone. He makes these great notes and they're like, oh, this sounds like it's good. They've got new mechanicals in there. They got a new roof last year. The insurance paid for it, blah, blah, blah. And then you get down to it and I start digging into it. I'm like, okay, where's the pay history? And I talk with the guy. Well, he hasn't paid me in 4 months. Oh, you left that out, huh? So then we start thinking, okay, our price is going to be faded down and down and down and down. And that's why we do the discovery. And quite honestly, we make sure that the seller puts more effort into giving us a lot of the discovery items. And Richard and I don't go out of pocket on some of the stuff till we know for sure, like, okay, this is what they said it was going to be. And we don't really see any problems, or we see some problems and we need to let them know now before we spend some money on this loan. We won't do a title search and we won't do a property inspection until probably close to the last second, just to make sure, because there's oftentimes you get down the road with these sellers and you have to walk away from the deal because, surprise, this guy hasn't paid me in 2 years. Oh, the taxes are delinquent by $6,000.
Along the lines of people being really familiar with the borrowers and things like this, I usually try to be very discreet, and I never laugh at anybody. I try to laugh with people. But this guy called me back. All I have is the number, right, coming up on my screen. I've called 40 people this morning. I have no idea who I'm talking with. And I say, well, can you tell me, sir, who I'm speaking with so I can look you up my database? And he says, oh, this is Bubba. And I say, well, I'm sorry, sir. I don't think I can find Bubba in my database.
So obviously he's using a nickname, not his real name.
And he was determined, to get down the conversation and find out more about the rates before he's going to give me his real name. And he finally did because he liked my terms. But anyway, and anecdotal humorous stories.
So my buddy Drew says, hey, if you're good with trades, the Indianapolis Colts needs your help. I know they do, man. I know they do. That's a good point. I don't think I can help them at all.
Right.
All right, Richard. Barbara, hopefully we answered your question, but let's read your couple of comments you got here. So if I'm a homeowner, I owe the bank $50,000 of mortgage balance. You come in and buy $50,000 at discount. I still owe the bank? Great question. Let's stop there for a second. So Barbara is saying, I owe 50 grand to the bank right now. If we come in and buy that 50 grand for $45,000, she says, do I still owe the bank? So if you're the borrower, yes, your terms don't change at all. You still owe the $50,000 balance, and you have to pay that because that's what you promised to pay. Just because somebody like us bought the note at a discount, it doesn't mean that you will be paying less money or something will be changing to you with the terms of the note and mortgage. Everything stays the same, except you're not paying Bank of America. You're paying Justin and Richard.
Right. I think there might be a little bit of confusion here, though. Is she says, I'm the homeowner and I own the bank $50K. I'm sorry, I got somebody beating at my door.
All right. So can you give me some details? And how would this work? So if you want to be the bank is what we're talking about, then this is the whole project. This is the whole scope of why we're doing this broadcast, is to kind of introduce this subject matter to people, to get them to kind of get tickled into the idea of being the bank and kind of how it works and our experiences and stuff. So we can definitely have a conversation with you. Barbara, if you want to reach out to me at justin@brightpathnotes.com. I'll throw my email in the chat here. Hopefully it gets to everybody, not just one social media. All right. There we go. It's in there, so you can save that. And we can have a more candid conversation and kind of, so that way we can go back and forth. We can't get you on the mic right now because we're doing a live streaming. Otherwise, we would definitely do that. So good.
Sorry, at least it was good for a good cause here. It was a note payoff.
Is that a check from me?
It's a check. That's right. So anyway, did you finish my point, or did you know where I was going with that?
I don't know where you're going with stuff, Richard.
Okay. What I was saying was to Barbara is that if she was a homeowner.
Thank you, Barbara.
Barbara, I'm sorry. She had made. We're not refinancing the homeowner. We're refinancing the note holder. We're just buying the note. So she doesn't owe anything to a bank. There's no B of A or anybody like that. Right.
So Barbara's going to reach out to us when she can, and we can help kind of explain this better and go back and forth with her. So thanks, Barbara, for being part of the broadcast today. Appreciate all your questions. Dennis, thanks for all your comments. I think I got all of them up there. Oh, okay. Dennis is responding to something else. I got it. I don't have to put that up there. So if anybody else has anything they want to talk about, go ahead and chime in. We're happy to discuss some things live on the air right now. This will be recorded, so you can go back through our Facebook page, BrightPath Notes Facebook page. We have a Facebook group called Real Estate Note Investing Be the Bank Facebook group. The picture of that main thing that came across the beginning, like before I recorded everything, I think it came up and it showed the logo of what it looks like. So that's how you can get a hold of us. John has a quick question here. It says, are you both seeing good product flow? That's a really good question. So John, I'm not sure if you've been in the note business for a while or if you've seen a decline in easily accessible notes, but there has been a decline in easily accessible notes for a few years now. What Richard and I do is we work really hard on marketing and lead generation to find these motivated note sellers and to go after them and buy them. We have other note brokers that bring us deals because, quite frankly, we can fund them quickly. We can also help educate the note broker on kind of how to structure the deal, what kind of questions to ask, kind of work with them more closely because we're both trying to make money on it. So that's another thing we do as well. So we are seeing good product flow. We're not seeing a waterfall of product, but Richard and I are seeing good product flow, but we also work really hard to do it. So other note investors are typically just finding them from different exchange sites and finding them from different funds. And some of the funds, they have 1,000 brokers looking at those deals every day. And if they only have 20 or 30 deals at a time, it's a fight to get those deals. So Richard and I don't have that conflict with other brokers right now because we're one of the few people that are actually reaching out to seller financiers.
Right. And to further answer John's question, when I got into this business, I was buying in bulk. So I was buying 10 to 15 loans at a time. I could do that fairly easily. There are a number of companies out there that had originated them and were selling them. I can no longer do that. And that's why we are buying onesie twosies right now. We have a good business, but it's a lot more difficult business than it was.
Yep. So it's going to ebb and flow like this, for a while. So we will probably see more opportunities to originate seller finance loans. And that's quite frankly, anytime that we're taking back a loan via and turn into an REO, we're just reseller financing it. We've done that 2 or 3 times already this year. It's pretty nice. So we're able to get right back into things and keep the property kind of in-house, but it's just a new loan. Mm-hmm. John says, thank you. You're welcome, John. Thanks for being on the call today, my friend. So Richard, do you have any final thoughts for today before we sign off? I think that's all the questions that we got.
Not that I can think of. I mean, I do think we should consider throwing a couple of sort of a little more creative deals in. It might be really good for the audience.
Richard, you cut out, unfortunately, again, but I think I heard what you said, and just nod your head if I heard this correctly, is you want us to put more creative or structured finance deals on the call? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. We'll look into that. So I'm just trying to grab the ones I think that are interesting to put on our broadcast every month, just to show you guys a case study and just kind of talk through it. But if you guys have deals, do not be afraid to ask us to put it on the call, and we can kind of beat it up with a specific question that you have. We don't have to show the address. We don't have to show who the note seller is. We can keep all that stuff discretionary and just focus on the terms, the numbers, and get you the information you want and do this kind of in real time. So we're happy to do that for you guys. The next one's going to be May 11th from 6 to 8 p.m. on Wednesday. So thank you very much for being on the broadcast today. Richard, thanks for hopping on. Sorry it took you so long to get on.
Not your fault.
But all right, guys, until next time, I'm Justin with Bright Path Notes. You can find me or reach me at justin@brightpathnotes.com. Richard, why don't you go ahead and give me your email?
Richard at amnotecap. That's amnotecap, NOTEcap.com.
All right, guys. Until May, we will see you. And don't forget to subscribe to the Be the Bank broadcast on all your podcast directories. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Bye, everybody.